This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masteringencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey everyone, Larry Bailey here with Mortgage Workflow Partners. Thanks very much for listening in. Today is October 15th, 2024. We're going to go through what happened in the market last week, which was October 7th, 2024. There's a lot to get to. First of all, if you ever really want to learn how to master the Encompass platform from ICE Mortgage Technology, head over to masteringencompass.com and check out all the service and class offerings there for training. And as always, this information is brought to you by mbshighway.com. So let's get into these stories. The whole premise of last week was inflation was hotter than expected in September, but there's important context, of course, to these headlines. Plus, another index showed rising home prices. We're going to listen into these top stories so you can understand what's going on. The first story is softening shelter crucial to consumer inflation. The next story is annual wholesale inflation hotter than expected. The next story is initial jobless claims at a 14-month high. And the last story we'll go through here is annual home price gains continues. So if you're listening to this on podcast, thank you. Head over to YouTube to actually see this on video using the Mastering Encompass handle, or you can get over to masteringencompass.com to check things out, or head over to mortgage.community to see this video on replay. So this first graph that we see on here is all about the consumer price index and looking at the trend where it's going down, and it's going in a soft curve kind of a thing, which actually is exactly what the Fed was hoping for. Quite honestly, we were all hoping for. So the latest consumer price index, that's a CPI, it showed more progress on the headline inflation as consumer prices rose 2.4% for the 12 months ending September. While this was hotter than expected, it does mark a slowing from August's 2.5% annual gain and was the lowest reading on record since February of 2021. The core measure, which strips out volatile food and energy prices, increased 0.3% from August, coming in above estimates. This annual reading ticked higher from 3.2 to 3.3%. Transportation costs, they include the airline fares and motor vehicle insurance. Those were the key reasons for the pricing pressure that we saw last month. Those monthly readings for shelter was encouraging as it showed signs of softening. So the bottom line here, gang, is what we're really seeing is progress in the consumer inflation numbers, albeit slowly. For example, if we annualize the last 3 months of readings, the year-over-year inflation would be lower, coming in at just 2.1% for the headline CPI and 3% for the core CPI. Plus, September's low shelter reading is an important development, as it may be the first sign that the shelter component in the CPI is finally catching up to market rents. Given the shelter component makes up nearly 46% of the core CPI, lower shelter readings will make it much easier for inflation to make the progress towards the Fed's magical 2% target over time. Fed also acknowledged ahead of the report that they were expecting shelter readings to moderate. Here's the next story, and this is all about annual wholesale inflation came in hotter than expected. So where retail we see CPI, here on wholesale we see PPI. So the producer price index, PPI, which measures the inflation at the wholesale level, was unchanged in September, with the annual reading falling from an upwardly revised 1.9% to 1.8%. That core PPI, which strips out volatile food and energy prices, that rose 0.2% for the month, and the year-over-year reading moved higher to 2.8%. Bottom line of the story, gang, is while the hotter-than-expected CPI and the PPI readings have caused some fear that inflation is reemerging, we need to look at the numbers in context, of course. September's 1.8% year-over-year reading for the PPI is well below the peak of 11.7% seen in 2022. Inflation has made significant progress lower, and it's important to remember that it will not move down in a straight line. It's always that bumpy, and that's what we saw in the imager. Next story is all about initial jobless claims at 14-month high. So the initial jobless claims were higher than expected last week, rising 33,000 for a total of 258,000 people filing for unemployment benefits for the first time. Continuing claims also surged ahead by 42,000 as 1.861 million people are still receiving benefits after they're filing their initial claim. The bottom line in this story is that the initial jobless claims are tied a last high seen in August of 2023, though the spike higher was due in part to elevated filings in states impacted by Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Milton could also cause additional elevated filings in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, continuing claims have topped 1.8 million since the start of June, remaining near 3-year highs. The data continues to suggest that the employers have slowed down their pace of hiring, of course, and this makes it, of course, harder for some people to find new employment once they're let go. All right, here we get into the next story with the annual home price growth continues. ICE, formerly known as Black Knight, reported that national home values rose 0.12% in August after seasonal adjustments, with their index showing that prices are 3% higher than a year ago, down from the 3.6% in previous report. Bottom line in this story is ICE is not alone in their findings, as home prices gains continue to be reported in other major indices as well. For instance, Case-Shiller's latest report, which of course is considered the gold standard in tracking changes in residential real estate values, showed that the national home values hit another record high in July, with prices 5% higher than a year earlier. The Federal Housing Finance Agency also showed 4.5% annual growth over that same period. These reports, when you look at them all together, continue to show that homeownership continues to be a great investment for wealth creation. Hey, if you're interested in the Family Hack of the Week and you're listening on podcast, this one's all about National Chocolate Cupcake Day. Head to the spot in the recording on video, either on YouTube at Mastering Encompass or over at our Mortgage Doc community, and check out the recipe. It is great. It's brought to you from Food Network, so you know it's going to be good. Here's what we're looking for this week, gang. Thursday brings several important reports, including the update on September's retail sales, weekly jobless claims, and home builder confidence this month. More housing news follows on Friday with September's housing starts and building permits data. That's it for this update for this week. Again, my name's Larry Bailey. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more of this critical information brought to you every time we update it. We'll see you there. Take care.